Welcome to the Hope, Health, and Healing podcast. I'm Michelle Hannah Fields, and I am your host for episode 3, where Doug and I will talk about how we met, how we reconnected, and a little insight into our relationship journey. I hope that you leave refreshed and hope you leave with a little more knowledge about us and learn who we are, what we're like, and I hope that you gain a little hope that God is in your story and that He really will direct your steps when you depend upon Him. And I also hope that you leave just with a cheerful heart because, you know, Doug and I love to laugh. We have a lot of funny stories to share. We love to share them with people, and they laugh with us. Sometimes they laugh at us, and we laugh at ourselves as well. And, you know, just like Proverbs 17:22 says, a joyful heart is good medicine. So I hope that at the end of this episode, you can say that you have a joyful heart and that this episode gave you some medicine. But also, I want you to know that at the end, I give you a little just message, I guess you would say, but just, you know, talking about our story and, you know, how God works. And, you know, if you find yourself in that place that I talk about, just know that there's hope that, you know, God is still working even when you can't see Him working. I think that's probably one of my biggest things I tell people is, you know, God's already working in your story. You may not see the evidence yet, but He's working. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day. Sit back, relax with your favorite cup of coffee or favorite beverage of your choice, and just enjoy this episode with us. All right, Doug, so we're going to talk about how we met and how we started dating. So let's hear your perspective.
So my perspective was we were both at a high school classmate's funeral, unfortunately, and I can remember you walking up to the group and me asking some of my friends who that was, and they said, "That's Michelle Fuller." And I said, "No, it's not." And they were like, "Yes, it is." And I'm like, "No, it's not." Because she looked nothing like I remember from high school.
Yeah, so let's back up. So we did go to the same high school.
Yes.
We both went to Manchester High School.
We were 2 years apart.
Yeah. I graduated in 89 with Doug's younger brother.
And I graduated in 1987.
And so we did know who each other was in high school, but Doug never talked to me.
We ran in different circles. I was an athlete. I played football, and
I was the math nerd / computer nerd.
She was the smart one, and I was the football player.
You're a smart one too.
I don't know about that.
Well, you were smart enough to ask who I was.
Yes, I was. I had to ask twice because I didn't believe it was you.
This is true. I do look a little different than I did in high
But
school.
I will say this.
And I carry myself different.
Yes, I will say this. I might have been looking at you, but I don't think you were looking at me.
I wasn't looking at anybody.
Well, you certainly weren't looking at me. Not that time or the next time we ran into each other, which was at the middle school career day. We both got invited to do middle school career day. From my buddy Randy. He invited both of us to come and talk. Michelle was talking about her businesses, and I was talking about logistics and careers in logistics. And I'm pretty shy, and I was trying to talk to Michelle, and she obviously wasn't interested. So she barely gave me the time of day. So I spent more time talking to Randy's wife, Kai, than I did talking to Michelle, but oh well, you know.
Yeah. Well,
here we are. Somehow, here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. So, you know, that was and then we just kind of talked to each other on Facebook, you know, Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. So
quite a bit.
Yeah, we did. So that's really how we met, was through through Facebook. So, I was, I had been divorced at the time about 9 years, and had, you know, dated a couple different people, not anything serious, but, you know, just didn't really feel like I had met anybody that, was what I was looking for. And, you know, so one night I was laying in bed, and I was, I was a little bit down. I was depressed, and I was praying to God that, he would bring somebody into my life that, was what I was looking for, that was totally different than anybody I had ever met. And, you know, didn't, wasn't into the bar scene, or wasn't into, you know, the things that of my past that I really was trying to get away from. And, I was laying there, and all of a sudden I heard a ding on my phone, and I reached over and picked it up, and it was a post from Michelle. So I was like, there might be something to this. God's trying to tell me something, and something that I had already been trying to tell myself, but wasn't feeling she was very receptive to. But I figured I figured that if God's telling me to, then I probably should try again. So there we go.
Third time's charm.
Yeah, that's what they say.
So from my perspective, I had been divorced about 15 years when we met. Well, when we reconnected. And I was not looking for anybody or praying for anybody. Just being honest. I had gone out with somebody years before that, and dated him for a few years, but realized that he wasn't the one I was supposed to marry. And so I had not dated anybody really for 10 years. I go out with somebody, and I was like, this is not the person I'm interested in. And I would decline the second invitation to go out. And I did that. And then probably when I really had not really dated, and I really had gotten to the place where I was comfortable by myself, and really had decided that God's plan for my life was for me to be single the rest of my life. That's what I just figured, since I had not met anybody and it had been so long, that apparently I was going to be like Paul and wasn't going to be married. So I was like, well, I'm good with that. I had gotten to the place where I was like, if it was just me and God, then God would take care of me. And he would be faithful to take care of me.
Surprise, surprise, here I am.
So yeah, and so Doug and I connected on Facebook, and we built a friendship through there, and then he asked me out. You want to talk about that?
No, you can tell a story. Go
ahead. So we had been talking online for a while. I would say, what, 3 months maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Probably consistently 3 months. And one night he messaged and asked me if I would like to go out. And I said, well, he said, I'm having a birthday party. Would you want to come to my birthday party? And I said, when is it? And when he told me, it was when I was going to be in Dallas. Yeah. So I said, sorry, I'll be in Dallas that weekend.
Rejection once again. I was getting used to it.
So he said, okay, well, let me know when you get back in town, and maybe
I thought I'd never hear from him.
Yeah. So when I got back in town that Sunday or Monday, I messaged and said, hey, I'm back in town. And how was your birthday party? And he said, it was fabulous. It wasn't as good as if you'd have been there, though.
Yeah.
He really didn't say that. But so yeah, we made plans for that Friday night. We made plans.
And I took her to a high class restaurant in Hamilton, Georgia, called Hunter's Pub to have a nice steak.
What he did not know was that steak is the weight of my heart.
What I did not know was when I showed up at her house to pick her up and she let me in the front door and I looked over to my right and on the table sat a revolver about this long. And I said, oh, okay, I see how this is going to go. And so I've known my place with her ever since.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't have to use it though.
So I know we talked in the last episode that, on our first date, I was wearing a knee brace and could barely walk, and that is true.
That's true.
I had on a knee brace that night, and
I thought I was going to have to drop him at the front door and park the truck, but
so, I was trying to make a good impression, limping, overweight, and it just wasn't happening.
it was nice though. We had a nice time.
I think she saw me as a challenge. An ought to be a challenge.
Nah.
So anyway, charity case.
yeah, no. But I will say that night, I can't remember how big of a steak he ordered, but it was a pretty big steak.
It wasn't 6 ounces, trust me.
It was not.
It was not Optavia compliant, and
No.
it was not a lean and green by
I
any
had a
by
lean
any
and green.
means.
I had a lean and green.
I might have had some green beans, but
You had green beans.
okay, yeah. Well, that was as close to lean and green as I was going to get.
Yeah, you might have even had a salad that night.
I may have.
Yeah.
I was trying to.
He was trying to impress me with his greens.
I was at 300 plus pounds. I was trying to impress you.
So then, just I will say he's learned portion control.
I have. Yeah.
He learned that a 6-ounce steak is very filling.
I've learned that my health coach is very observant, and if I try to be non-compliant, then I'm held accountable.
I'm not that bad.
I'm
not that bad.
I'm just teasing.
I'm not the food police.
I
might be the water police, but I'm not the food police.
Yeah, you are the water police, and I am not good when it comes to water.
So, but he's going to get better.
I am.
He's going to get better. So back to us going out. So we went out.
We went out to Hunter's Pub. We had a steak, and
then just went back to my house and talked and got to know each other a little bit.
Yep.
And then he left.
And went home.
Yep. And then, we messaged back and forth. I will say when he left, he did ask if he could kiss me.
Yeah.
Good night.
And what was the answer?
No.
A resounding no. Not at all.
I don't kiss on the first date.
Yeah, or the second, or 35th, or the 69th, or any other.
So that is part of our funny story.
Yeah.
But so when he left, he did ask if he could get a hug, so I did hug him. I hugged him goodbye.
Did you?
I did.
You might have been holding your gun when you hugged.
But anyway, so then we scheduled a second date.
Was that
after that?
Yeah. Was that when I had the Corvette or no? No, that was later.
No, that was later on.
Oh, okay.
And then we didn't get to go on that second date.
But the consolation prize was a hardback book. Michelle sent me a hardback copy of her book, and that was my consolation prize. So
yeah.
I still have that, by the way. And not everybody gets a hardback.
That's right. Not everybody.
I've been reminded of that several times that, hey, you might have been rejected, but at least you got a hardback.
You got a hardback. Yeah. So, so then after a couple of weeks, we did go out. We went out again. And we went out again and then came back to my house, and it was a little awkward for both of us.
Yes, it was.
It was a little awkward.
It was kind of awkward.
But then we went out again. So we kept talking all through this and just, talking to each other. And
I remember one time we met up at the Riverwalk in Columbus. And
that was Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. And I have never walked so much in my life. At 290 pounds, I was sweating bullets. It was hot that day, and it was humid that day, and I couldn't keep the sweat off my forehead or my upper lip. I was drenched.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop me from asking her for a kiss.
He had to take breaks.
Yeah.
So he decided when he needed a breathing break.
Every time I took a rest stop, I was like, "Oh, this looks like a good spot."
This looks like a good spot for a kiss.
Rejection number 12, number 13,
No.
number 14.
So yeah, we walked pretty good ways. We walked, if you're familiar with Columbus, we walked from Banks Food Hall all the way up to where the Indigo is. And beyond. So we walked all the way up to where Thesis is, that part of the river walk, and then we walked back. So that's a pretty good ways. That's about I would say that is about 6 blocks one way. Because Banks Food Hall is around 10th Street.
And I'm just happy that she didn't have to carry me back.
I was too. I asked him, I might have asked him one time if we needed to get an Uber.
Yeah. Call Angel.
But we did. We walked and talked and went and got coffee afterwards. And yeah, we had a nice walk, but no kissing there. We did hold hands, if you remember that.
They were sweaty hands, but I remember
They were sweaty. But yeah, so we did. And so we had been going out for a couple of months after that. I mean, before that. So we started, our first date was in March. We went and met my mom and stepdad for dinner one Saturday so they could meet Doug, and then I went out to meet his mom and dad. I met him, and then he had to go meet Susan and Gilbert.
Yeah.
So we went and did that one night, and he had to go meet Sanford and Mildred.
I met them all.
Met them all.
although Sanford doesn't know my name, but that's okay.
yeah, that was later though.
Oh, I know.
He knew your name that night. But
briefly.
Yeah. But then he did finally get a kiss out of him after about 4 months.
Yeah. 4 months. 4 months, guys.
Yeah. But I will say
that's persistence.
That was persistence. And patience. And respect.
And it almost didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to back up right there.
Okay.
And so just one thing that I told him, and I probably should have told him this before all that, was that the reason I wouldn't kiss anybody was because I wanted to make sure that it meant something to me, that it wasn't just a kiss to be kissing, that I wanted to wait until I knew in my heart that meant something. And so that was important to me. I probably should have told him that long before then, so he wouldn't have been wondering.
I just thought it was because you didn't want me huffing and puffing in your face because I'm so out of shape and out of breath.
That wasn't it. But so what he was saying about, it almost not happening.
Well, no. So let's talk about the first kiss. So we went to Susan and Gilbert and borrowed the gator and rode down to their pond down there. And while we were down there, it started raining.
It did.
And we were trying to fish a little bit and weren't having much luck, but it started raining pretty good. So we were standing there, and once again, the romantic in me asked for a kiss, and believe it or not, she reached over and pecked me on the lips real quick and looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "Are you happy now?" And I was like, I guess so.
Yes, so.
I guess so. 4 months, and that's what I get. Okay. All right.
But again, what I meant by that.
She didn't do a good job. She clarifies on here. She didn't do a good job clarifying on me because I was clueless. I was like, oh.
I told you later.
I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Because when I said, "Are you happy now?" he should have been, because that meant I was moving out of the friend zone.
I'm one of those guys that you gotta like draw it on my forehead. For me, I don't pick up subtle
Yeah.
hints and things like that. You gotta
That was like a big hint though.
write it on a piece of paper and
That was like,
hand it to
that
me.
was like an airplane sign right there.
Okay. Once again, I was clueless.
So then things rocked on and we did a lot of things together. So we spent a lot of time together.
Mhm.
I wasn't completely committed at that time. And so Doug he was all in, but he was patient and he said, I'm not going anywhere. And so I told him when I'm ready to be exclusive and no, like I will tell you that. I'll tell you. And so it was probably about 6 weeks later, I think. Is about the time that I told you that I was ready to be exclusive. Um and then we started seeing each other every weekend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was in Columbus every weekend.
Yeah. We so back up. So I had a convention in Atlanta, and so that during that week you came up and we had brunch together during the week.
Mhm.
And then that Sunday night he went into work late. He took half a night off and we went to a professional women's tennis exhibition match.
Yeah, my first.
His first tennis match, and it was hot that night too.
Coco Golf. She was good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Very good.
And we had gone walking around Centennial Park and rode the Ferris wheel.
Mhm.
So yeah, we did all that and had a great time together, and
Then I went to work.
then he went to work. But yeah, after that we spent pretty much every weekend together, and I think Doug knew pretty soon that we would be married.
Yeah, when you feel like you get a message from God, you don't take that lightly. So,
Mhm.
or at least I don't take that lightly because it's not often that, I definitively know that God was trying to tell me something. So,
Mhm.
in this case, I do.
Yeah, and Doug did. So the first time he went to church with me, I was actually leading worship at my friend's church, and he messaged and said, "Hey, do you mind if I come? I'd like to come." So he came with me to that, and then a couple of weeks later, he came to Evangel with me. Well, I don't think I told you this, but I told Patsy and Jesse. I was like, I'm bringing a fellow with me next weekend.
Goodness.
Y'all better prepare everybody.
Billy started crying.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a funny story. So Billy, that's in our Sunday school class, he's a retired military guy. And he had called me his girlfriend forever. And he hugged me, he'd say, "How's my girlfriend today?" So when we finally announced that we were dating, so we announced it on Facebook. He was at our Sunday school teacher's house one week and he was just moping around. And she's like, "Billy, what's wrong with you?" He said, "You know what's wrong with me? My girlfriend and got a boyfriend." But we love Billy. He's
awesome.
so fun. And
He's
but
great.
yeah, he's a good guy. But yeah, so we just did a lot of things together. We created a lot of memories. And
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing we did?
Probably going to Nashville, to the Gaylord, which I didn't stay at the Gaylord, but we were there.
Mhm.
Y'all stayed at the Gaylord. I stayed in
He stayed in a cabin.
wooden cabin
That was
the
40 degrees.
First night I opened the door and it's 40 degrees and I thought I was freezing to death, but I made it somehow.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a good trip.
So I actually took they had a little wooden stool and I took it and put it right beside the bed and they had a little standing heater and I put it on top of the stool where it would blow right on my body. I was so cold.
Yeah. But yeah, we went to the Ryman to hear Vince Gill and Amy Grant, and we went to the Grand Ole Opry that night. And Actually, Garth Brooks made a guest appearance that night, introducing somebody,
Yeah.
a new singer. It was that singer's first time on the Grand Ole Opry, and so Garth had recorded a song he wrote, or yeah, I think Garth had recorded a song he wrote,
Absolutely.
and so Garth came on and introduced him. That was pretty cool. We were both hoping that Garth would sing, but he didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun trip. It was good. So my parents went, my Aunt Susan and Uncle Gilbert, and my Uncle Sam and Aunt Mildred went too. And so that was funny. So on the way up there, Sanford and Mildred rode with us. So the whole ride up, 6 hour drive, they're talking and calling Doug, Sanford's calling Doug. But one thing about my Uncle Sam, like, he's gonna call your name wrong. He gonna get it wrong. And so for 6 hours, he'd call this man Doug. And then we get up there, we meet Mama and Susan, Phil and Gilbert at dinner. And we sit down and Sanford said, y'all didn't tell me that Bruce, he called him Bruce. And we're like, Bruce? He said, yeah, that long-legged rascal. I sat behind that long-legged rascal. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
I've been called worse. So, yeah. No, another funny thing that happened was we stopped about halfway up, and we decided to grab some lunch or something at Chick-fil-A.
That was fun.
And so we get up to leave, and Mildred and I think Michelle had gone to the restroom. And so Sanford and I had went outside and we're standing on the curb. And there was a lady that walked by that her hair from the back looked exactly like Mildred. And Sanford almost went and got in her car because he thought it was Mildred, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun.
And you're like, where are you going? That's not Mildred.
I'm like,
that ain't your wife.
I'm like, Sanford, that's not your wife. And he's like, what?
That's hilarious. But yeah, but we had a good time. We had a good time.
The singer that Garth introduced that night was a guy named Mitch Roselle, and he sung a song that he wrote, and it meant a lot to me. It really hit home. So
yeah, it was when he wrote about his dad. So it's a good song. We'll put the link to it in the podcast show notes, so you can listen to it. But yeah, it was good. And I think before that, so that was around Christmas time. That was a few weeks before Christmas. We went to Nashville, but kind of backing up just a little bit. Doug had, like I said, he knew that he would tell me, like, I know that you're the one that I'm supposed to be with. So being who I am, I said, well, when I hear from God, I'll let you know. I got to hear from God myself. Yeah. So I prayed about it, and prayed about it. And so it's probably around Thanksgiving time is when, I was like, I think you're right. I think, I just feel like we're supposed to be together. And then we went on that trip with my family, and we just had such a great time, and it just seemed like it was natural, and
we also did a trip to South Carolina to see Mike and Amanda,
meet my brother, and well, he knew my brother from high school, but to meet my brother's family. Yeah, so that's a funny story. We go back to high school. So the reason I didn't hang out in that circle that Doug was in, I'm going to blame my brother.
Go ahead.
So I was a freshman, Doug was a junior, and my brother was a senior. And, I guess I was a pesty little sister. I don't think so. I think I was an angel. But Mike says I was a pesty little sister. Yeah. And so he told me, look, we have 3 buildings at the high school, A, B, and C. I hang out in C. I don't want to see your face unless you have a class. And then I want you to come to class, and then I want you to leave. And so that's where Mike hung out, and that's where Doug hung out. So we'll blame Mike for us not really talking in high school.
Yeah.
He's a good one to blame.
Yeah. And the fact that we were both shy. So.
Yeah, we were. We were very shy. very shy. But so yeah, so around Thanksgiving-ish is when I kind of, was telling Doug that I thought, we would be together. We walked through a really hard season at the beginning of the year. That'll be a story for another day. But then we started making plans to think about, what to do. Well, so he asked me what kind of ring I wanted, and I was like, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm pretty easy to please in that regards.
Okay,
I might not be easy pleasing others, but I'm pretty easy pleasing that. I'm pretty simple. So I said, it doesn't really matter to me, whatever you want to get's fine. So he actually ordered it.
ordered it online from the number one diamond retailer in the country, online diamond retailer in the country, company called Blue Nile, and I have never been more nervous in my life because the way they work is they have access to diamonds in vaults all over the world, and depending on what you want, they have it shipped to California in the United States to have it set in a ring sized and everything, and then from there they ship it to wherever you request that it be shipped to. So I requested that it be shipped to the UPS hub in Peachtree City, and that's I was a little nervous because you're buying something online that you've seen only online. You haven't seen it physically in your hand or with your own two eyes, the actual ring that you're going to get. And so as I'm driving to the UPS store, or not store, hub there in Peachtree City to pick it up, I'm pretty nervous. So I get in there, and of course they have to check my driver's license and whatever else they need to release it to me. And as I'm walking across the parking lot, I take a picture of the box and I said, "Here's your ring."
Yeah, yeah.
And I hadn't even opened it yet. And so I'm like sweating bullets as I walk to the truck and got my knife out, cut it open, and then I was like, it's awesome. It's amazing. So,
yeah. So there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
And so, it exceeded my expectations in a huge way. And, I've got nothing but great things to say about Blue Nile. And, I probably went back and forth with them about the diamond itself for it seemed like a month before I finally chose the one that I wanted. And so I probably talked to every customer service rep there at some point in time.
Yeah. So, with my schedule, Doug, he was like, look, just reserve this night for me. It was May 26th. He's like, just reserve that night for me and, just reserve it. So I did. I blocked that out, and I met him at his house in Sharpsburg, and he's like, I drive us everywhere because I drive fast.
Yeah. And if we wanted to get through Atlanta traffic, then Michelle was the only option.
So I drove, and he had the address in there. So he didn't even tell me where we were going. He's just telling me, get off on this exit, get off here, turn right here, turn left here. I have no idea where we're going.
Right.
And finally, we pull up in the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. And I was like, oh, that's nice,
And the whole time we're driving, I'm texting with the photographer because I had set up with a photographer to take pictures, and I'm trying to tell her what time we're going to arrive, what clothes we've got on, so because she had never met us, and what we had on, and what time we were going to get to a certain spot in the garden.
Traffic was terrible.
And traffic was terrible. We were running late. I'm sweating bullets because we only had so much time to spend at the botanical gardens before we had reservations for dinner.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I'm a little bit nervous because this is all not quite panning out the way I had envisioned.
He was sweating.
thanks to the traffic in Atlanta, but I should have known
Mhm.
that traffic would be that way.
Yeah, it would. But so we got to the botanical gardens. We go in and so we get to the gardens and we walk in and walk to the Chihuly.
Which is a glass sculpture in the center of the botanical gardens, and the photographer's there, and she's all set up, and you know, and then I had written a poem, and so
My little poet.
yeah,
And I didn't know it.
I read the poem, and Michelle told me later. She's like, "You had no emotion when you read that poem."
He did. He just like saying it, just not even hardly looking at me, but reading this piece of paper. He had no emotion. He just, will you marry me?
That's not what. Yeah, come on, come on. I didn't have much emotion when I was reading the poem, just because I was doing this, you know, trying to hold a piece of paper. I can't see good, and you know, she's giving me a hard time, but you know, hey,
Yeah.
But anyway, eventually I got down on one knee and I pulled out the ring and I asked her to marry me.
And I said no.
Yeah. No, she said, "Are you happy now?"
I said, yes, are you happy now? But yeah, it was pretty cool because everybody around the gardens, they're just sitting there talking and chatting with their people. And when he gets down on one knee, you heard everybody go, oh, he's gonna ask her to marry him.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they all started clapping, and then the photographer comes, and you know, I was teary-eyed. His little, even though he didn't have any emotion, I did get teary-eyed on his poem. He's really a very good poet.
Yeah, when I want to be.
Yeah. So then it was like speed walking through the botanicals.
Whirlwind, because we only had so much time before we had to be at dinner, and our photographer had all these different places that she wanted to take pictures.
And I was wearing 4-inch spike heels.
Yeah, and needless to say, when we finished, I think you had blisters on every toe.
I did, and big blisters.
Your feet were never the same.
They weren't. But we had a great time. We got through there. We went to dinner. We went to dinner at the Weston.
Yep, Weston Peachtree Plaza. Went to the Sundial restaurant.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Very nice restaurant.
Very nice. Very nice.
And from there, you're able to see the skyline of the city of Atlanta. And it was, you know, it was starting to get dark. So, you know, the sun was setting, and got some great pictures there. And from there, it's right beside where the Ferris wheel is in Atlanta, and you could see that with all the lights. And no, it was a great meal.
So then after that, we walked to the Skyview Atlanta, and he had the special car. What do you call it?
The VIP car.
VIP car. He had that reserved for us, and it was pretty funny. We get there and we were running a little late.
Yes, very much late.
Yeah. So we kind of missed our time, but they still let us get on. So they had just sold the next time for the VIP car. But that couple was gracious enough to let us go ahead of them. And so they sat in the VIP lounge while we rode. And you're supposed to go, what is it, 4 times around?
Yeah.
4 times around.
And the car was supposed to have air conditioning, and the air didn't work.
It didn't work.
We got on.
He's in a suit.
I'm in a suit.
I'm in a long dress and a jacket.
And so
it's hot.
We did 4 laps, then 5, then 6, then 7, and then eventually we're like,
he's like beating on the window.
I'm beating on the window, like, let us off this thing. We've been on there so long, and we were sweating because there's no air conditioning. I was about to die. No. You know, and we'd probably already been 10 laps around the thing. And
we got our money's worth.
Oh, and they finally realized that they had us locked on there and weren't letting us off. And so that when they finally saw me, they had to stop the Ferris wheel and back it up to let us get off. And when we got off, then they let the other couple on.
Yeah.
And I was like, good luck to y'all, because
it's hot in there.
It's hot in there, and they would not. I mean, it's like they just forgot we were in there.
Yeah. Well, the capsule is so dark, like, you know, the glass windows on that. It's like
car has tinted windows.
It's very tinted, like they couldn't see in. They couldn't see us like waving, trying to let them get us off. But we finally got off of it. But we were hot. and got off. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great night. And so then, it's talking about when are we getting married, and Doug's like, I want it to be this year. Like, I don't want it to be a long engagement. And so we're standing in church, and he had already said he didn't want to get married in December.
Or November,
Or
because
November.
multiple birthdays,
There
her
was so
birthday,
many
both my kids'
birthdays.
birthdays in
My
November.
mama,
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Stanford,
yeah,
like my family has all these birthdays in November
both my
too.
kids.
So yeah, we had too many. So then, we're looking at October. Well, October is busy for me. So I already had things on my calendar in October that I couldn't change. And so then we're just trying to figure it out. Well, I knew my mom was taking a long road trip up the northeast coast, or kind of the northeast, the eastern seaboard, just because she'd always wanted to travel there in the fall. And so they were planning like a 4 or 5 week trip. And they were supposed to leave towards the end of August. So one Sunday morning, we were standing there in worship, and we were singing gratitude, and all of a sudden I know I was supposed to be worshiping, but I was thinking about this wedding date. And so I was like, what date are we going to pick? And so I'm going over in my mind September. So I was counting the weeks up from when my mom was leaving on her trip. She was supposed to leave August 27th. And so I was counting the weeks she'd be gone, trying to figure out, what date that would be when she would be back. And I was like, well, what is the weekend before Labor Day? Because I knew she was going to be gone Labor Day. And when I looked at the calendar, I looked at it on my phone, and in my calendar on that Saturday, it was August 26th. And on my calendar is Mom and Daddy's anniversary. And so I showed that to Doug, and he's like, that's when we need to get married. And I said, well, yeah, but Mama leaves on the 27th. So we got to make sure that she's okay with like having a wedding and then leaving
Yeah,
on a trip, because she's got to have the camper all packed. There's a lot of planning that goes into the wedding, and I don't want to like stress her out before a trip. So we actually flew to Kansas. That's another good story.
Yeah.
So, but that was Mother's Day weekend. And so my mom and Phil had gone out to see his grandson graduate boot camp, and then they were swinging up through Kansas to visit my dad's family. Mama hadn't been out there since 2014. Phil had never met my dad's family, and so Mama wanted him to meet some of them. And so we were going up there, and so we decided to fly and meet them, because it had been since 2018 since I had been out there. So I go for my family reunion every year or every 2 years, but because of COVID, we didn't have it. And then in 22, I had something else going on that weekend that I couldn't make it. So it had been since 2018 since I'd been out. So we flew out there, and that weekend I said, Mom, we have something we need to ask you. She's like, okay. And I said, we're thinking about getting married August 26th. What do you think about that? And you can see her wheels turning, and you can see her thinking about that date.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think that'd be great. And I was like, but you're leaving on your trip the next day. Are you going to be okay with that? And she's like, no, we could not get campsites for Labor Day weekend. And so we pushed our date out for another week. So that meant God already had it already planned. He already knew when he laid that date on my heart. And so, we picked our wedding date before we even got engaged.
Yeah.
So,
God
because that was
forgot to
Mother's
tell
Day.
us it was gonna be the hottest day of the year.
Yeah, he didn't give us that info. He doesn't give you everything
No, I know.
up front.
I know.
Yeah. But so you want to talk about the Kansas trip? That was a fun trip.
It was a fun trip.
Once we got there.
We got there. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was not a fun trip getting there. Let me tell you. So
It was Mother's Day weekend.
it was Mother's
remember?
Day weekend. I did not
We were flying out Friday morning.
Yeah, and I didn't factor that in, the fact that, the lines to get through TSA were going to be extremely long. A lot of people were traveling that weekend. And I didn't have TSA pre-check like
Some people do.
some people did. And
I had TSA pre-check and I had digital ID, which meant my line had 2 people in it.
yeah, she was at the terminal in probably 10 minutes, and 2 hours into the wait, I'm still standing waiting to go through TSA, and I'm like, look, there's no way I'm gonna make it. I'm trying, whatever. And so finally get through TSA, and I'm like, look, I've got like 10 minutes to get, to where y'all are, I think I can make it. And
And the
so
thing is, like, so when our stewardess came on, or when they came out and started boarding the plane, they said we're running 15 minutes late.
mhm.
Like our departure time, we're 15 minutes behind. And I was like, great, that will give Doug time to get here.
So anyway, I'm riding the train, the doors open, I jump off, take off running. I'm going running up the escalator, running down the terminal. I run all the way to the gate, and it's like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes till the time we were supposed to depart, and the plane is gone. I mean, gone. And
Yeah.
Michelle is on the plane, and Doug is standing there like, well, what do I do now? And so
Yeah.
it wasn't just me. There was 5 or 6 other people that missed the same flight.
So yeah, instead of our flight being 15 minutes late, we left 10 minutes early
Yeah.
because they were rushing us on to make up the time. So then Doug did get on there. He did get on a flight,
Finally got on a
but
flight.
it was stressful.
After spending 6 hours in the airport, I finally got on a flight, and
Yeah.
once I got on the plane and sat down and buckled in, I was like, finally.
Yeah.
So
After that, it was a good trip.
needless to say, I eventually made it. But
Yep. So that was a good trip. He did get TSA pre-check after that though, for the next trip.
yeah, I'll never do that again.
Yeah. But so that's really the story of how we met.
Well, you left out a part.
Oh, what?
So while we were in Kansas, we met her Uncle Steve
Oh, yeah.
and his son Joe.
Mm-hmm.
We met them at a great burger place there, a local burger place, and we talked with them, and I think I just smiled, nodding 90% of the time. And afterwards,
They didn't hang out in building C either.
Afterwards, I told Michelle, I said, "Don't ever do that to me again." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "Don't ever like leave me alone in a conversation with those two, because their IQ is like up here and my IQ is like down here." And I felt like, I was like, "Oh, this redneck from Georgia is like struggling."
Nah, that's not true.
It was true. I mean, they were. I mean, their intellect is on a different level than
It's
mine.
on a different level than mine too.
Yeah,
That's way up there.
they're on the Mensa level, and I'm on the minced level.
Nah.
Yeah.
So I did want to go back and hit one thing. So Doug said, on our first date that he was 300, what did you say? 290, 290 pounds.
298 pounds.
Yeah. Well, we, so it was in August of that year. So we started dating in March, and in August that year he said, "Hey, I think I would like for you to help me in my health." So I said, "Okay." And so he came on program, and he did really well. And he felt good, and he got rid of the knee brace. Like he hasn't had to use that maybe once or twice since then.
Lost what, 50 pounds in 6 months?
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things was he learned, like I said, portion control. And so now when we go out to a steakhouse, like he orders a 6-ounce steak, and he's learned that you don't have to have a 16-ounce. Like a 6-ounce is filling, and you don't leave with your cheeks puffed out and not being able to move, right?
Well, prior to you, it was the biggest steak on the menu, so it wasn't 16 ounce. It was the biggest one they had.
Yeah, whatever that was. But I mean, I think that just, and he continues working on his health. Like he continues working on that, and I think one of the biggest things is you see that your health is important for lots of reasons, but I think not having to undergo knee surgery, which is one of the things he was facing, was probably going to have that just from wear and tear on his knees. I mean, they still bother him sometimes, just like, other things, but it's not to the level that it was, because, for every pound you lose, it takes 4 pounds of pressure off your knees. And so, he lost 50 pounds. So that's 200 pounds of pressure that came off his knees alone. But I think just changing lifestyle, that helps too. And so, here we sit, and he one of his favorite things he shares, that I think that he had all of us laughing out of Health and Hope. He said, if you want accountability, you get a health coach. If you want extra accountability, you date her. And then what? If you want ultra accountability, you put a ring on her finger.
Marry. You put a ring on her left hand and a paintbrush in her right.
That's my line. That's my line. He stole my line.
That's all right.
So the week we came back from our honeymoon, we went to St. Lucia on our honeymoon. We had a great time together. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of fun things.
And we had some scary moments, like the bus ride over there to the resort. None of us thought.
Somebody had warned me about that, but I really had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, that was scary.
I was praying that whole time. It was scary. Like, it's hairpin turns, and he's going 55 miles per hour.
Oh, and they pass other cars with, and
we're honking their horn.
Yeah, and
beep,
like
beep, beep, and they're doing this number.
I mean, they're almost
down the mountain,
almost head on, and everywhere you look, there's like junk cars on the side of the road at different like automotive shops and stuff, and all of them, the front end is like smashed to pieces, and you're like,
that's gonna be me. And then he would go over speed bumps too, and we're sitting on the very back of the shuttle, and he didn't even slow down. He drove over them like I do. But the thing is, like, when he was doing it, I was bouncing off the seat. I was doing this number off the seat.
Luckily, coming back, we had a great shuttle driver, and he was very good. And
he didn't scare me at all. But so in St. Lucia, we had a great time.
So we had to tell them about snorkeling in St. Lucia. That was a lot of fun. So for those of y'all that don't know, Michelle's not a very strong swimmer. And
I'm not really a swimmer at all.
Fortunately, I'm a very strong swimmer. But we signed up for our excursion, one of our excursions. We signed up to go snorkeling, and there's on the form there's a question on there that asks you, can you swim? And Michelle's looking at me going, how do I answer this?
I can swim.
She can swim, but it's more like Bob, not swimming. He bobs in the water.
It's not good. It's not pretty.
Anyway, so we're standing there, and they're handing us out our snorkeling gear, our fins and our mask and everything.
And I'm going, where's my life jacket?
And the guide is standing over there close to me, and I kind of pull him to the side, and I said, hey, I said, she's not a very good swimmer, but I said, I am. And I said, do you think she'll be okay, if I stay really close to her? And, he's like, oh yeah. He's like, tell her to come on. We got her. It's no problem.
They got me.
So anyway, we get on the boat and we go to where we're going to get off or whatever. And we're putting on all the gear, and, you've got a life vest on. It's inflatable, but it's
inflatable by my air,
but it's just around your neck, And so anyway, we jump in, and, Michelle latches onto my arm, and off we go. And so it stayed that way the entire time. It was an hour and a half. And we get back on the boat, and the first thing the guy says,
well, he told us that in the water.
Well, that's true. He said in all my years of doing this, and I've been doing this 20 plus years, he said, I have never seen two people stay so close together the entire time. And I said, she had the death grip on my arm, and I said, she wouldn't let go.
If I was going down, he was going down.
Yeah. And the funny thing is we got to talk about it later, and come to find out that she didn't realize that when water gets in your snorkel, you're supposed to blow it out. And so she was
I'm drinking it.
She was just swallowing it.
Well,
no telling how much seawater she drank that day.
My salt level was good.
Yeah, that's true. But we saw some really cool things. We
Yeah,
saw
we saw some
we
good
saw
things.
some eels, two eels. One was about 3 foot long, another one was kind of
They
small.
were a little creepy.
Yeah, and we saw a lobster. We saw a lot of different colored fish, all kinds of tropical fish and
Yeah.
things. And
It was good.
it was good. We had a good time, and I don't think she regrets going snorkeling. I think
No, it was good.
it was
It
good.
was good.
And I don't think she was
I would
scared
go
either.
again.
Yeah,
Huh?
I don't think you were scared either.
Maybe just a little.
Okay.
A little. But I was all right.
Yeah.
I would do it again.
Sometimes you just got to face your fear,
hmm
and you did. So
I did.
there we
Yeah.
go. Oh,
So
but we also got to tell you about how we both almost died on the same day in St. Lucia at the resort.
we almost died.
It was our last day there, and we
Mhm.
decided we got up that morning and we decided we were going to go work out. And
Yeah,
so
we had gone to work out another time that week too.
yeah, so anyway, we go to the gym and we're working out or whatever, and they had a Smith machine over there. And for those of y'all don't know what a Smith machine is, you've got a barbell, but it's on, it's
A
on
rack.
on a rack,
Sliding
and
rack.
it slides as you lift, to kind of help stabilize the bar or whatever. And so anyway, they had a Smith machine, and I was like, well, why don't we do some bench press or whatever? What I didn't really pay attention to was the bench was turned the opposite direction on the Smith machines. Normally it's facing this direction, but they had it facing the other direction because of where the mirror was located in the gym. And it wasn't a very big gym. And so I really didn't pay attention to it. And so we had done 2 or 3 sets to warm up or whatever. And then, of course, as I normally do, I got froggy and put a bunch of weight on the bar.
What did I tell you before that?
And Michelle's like, whatever you do, don't get hurt. And I'm like,
I'm not as big as you. I can't help you.
and we were the only 2 people in the gym, the only 2 people in the gym. And so, I got froggy and loaded up the bar, I can't remember 275 or 315 or whatever. I don't know. I think it was 275. But anyway, which is normally, just it's no big deal for me. But so I took it off the rack, and when you're on a Smith machine, it's got these 2 hooks that hook, on the bar, that you hang the bar on basically. So you have to lift up and then you have to twist to get the hooks unhooked. And so I lifted it up. Well, because the bench was facing the wrong direction, instead of twisting back, I had to twist forward with the bar. And as I twisted forward, this wrist collapsed. I mean, it went down. I mean, it just completely, this wrist was back, but this wrist went forward. And the weight just hit me right across the chest. I mean, just boom. And Michelle's over there going, I can't pick it up. I can't pick it up. Are you okay? And I'm like, So luckily I was able to pick it up enough to get it off of me. But I mean, my wrist is killing me. I've got a bruise across, my chest. I mean, it was.
If I had thought about it, I would have been like, can you just hold it steady so I could take a plate off each side, and then I could have helped him lift it up. But in that split 30 seconds or whatever it was, it felt like 30 minutes. I couldn't think that fast.
Yeah, so I don't recommend using the Smith machine if the bench is facing the wrong direction, because your wrist, especially my wrist, aren't strong enough to hold that bar with that much weight on.
So needless to say, we left the gym at that moment.
Yeah, so we
no more working out.
Left the gym, decided to go back to the room and change clothes and go down to the pool.
And it was rainy that day.
Well, we were at the pool, and I mean, a tropical storm blew up out of nowhere, and I mean, the rain was coming down. And so
big drops.
We decided to get up and leave, and I'll let you tell that story about what.
Yeah, so around the pool area is tiled, and it's like shiny tile, not so shiny tile, and so it's kind of like that. And you'll see like slippery when wet. I mean, you see that. And I know this was like the last day we were there, the last full day we were there. And so right there by the side of the pool, they have the hot tub, and then right there they have where you can sit the chairs in the water. So they have like a little wading pool. It's only,
6 inches deep.
yeah, 6 inches deep, water. And so that's where our stuff was. So we were walking, and when we stepped up out of the little wading pool area,
A gust of wind came up, and there was a
yeah,
slippery when wet sign over there, and it blew it over, and it went on the tile.
yeah.
And so me and another guy that was standing right beside us, we both turned and looked at the sign. Needless to say, Michelle went, her feet.
I hit that tile, and my feet, usually my feet go like that, but this time my feet did this,
Mhm.
and I went face first on the concrete. Like,
I mean,
bam!
if she hadn't had a hat on, she probably
I'd
had
have smashed my
she'd have
face.
smashed
I'd
her
have
face.
smashed my face. But I had a hat on. But I think it gave me whiplash because when it hit the bill, when the bill of the hat hit,
And it jammed your shoulder pretty bad.
it jammed my shoulder so bad. When I hit, it jammed, and it was so tight all the way up from here, all the way down around my shoulder blade, and I could hardly move it. I was in so much pain for like 2.5 to 3 weeks after that.
Yeah.
But I really thought I didn't think I had really messed it up, but then because it lasted so long, I was kind of afraid I might have. But I do think I had whiplash from the bill of my hat hitting and it jarring my head back like that. And my hat went flying. And then Doug and that guy that was standing there, the guy was, I mean, I was almost like right at his feet by this time.
Yeah.
And he's like, I have your hat, ma'am. So he gave me my hat back. But luckily, thankfully, I did have on a hat, or there's no telling what my face would look like today
Yeah. I mean,
because it was smashed.
and then, like I said, it was our last day there. We had a great trip.
Yeah.
No issues.
No issues.
Other than the
I didn't
car
even
ride.
drown while I was scuba
Yeah.
snorkeling.
And so we both almost died on the last day there.
So yeah, but we had a great time. We had a great trip, and so yeah, it was good.
And if you ever go and you want to cool off, go in the billiard room.
Yeah, it was freezing in there. He always wanted to go in there. It was freezing.
Because it cooled me off.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's really our story.
A lot of stories, a lot of different stories.
A lot of different stories. We have a lot of funny stories. Maybe we'll come back for
funny story too.
Funny stories after we've been married, because we have quite a few of those too.
Absolutely.
We'll keep y'all guessing.
They happen every day.
They do happen every day. We have funny stories every day. But, I think that's one thing is that we can laugh. We can laugh at each other sometimes.
Absolutely. Especially,
we can laugh with each other.
And we both have very, very busy schedules. Very busy schedules. I mean, we're always on the go. Don't neither one of us get a lot of sleep. I mean, we're but we still have a lot of fun too.
So. Yeah, we do. We have a lot of fun together. And I think too, like we both love to laugh. I probably pick on him a little too much, but he knew that before he put a ring on my finger.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. So when we came back from our honeymoon, so he's in construction. He does another job too, but in construction. And so he had this construction job he was working on before we got married. So he started working on it before we got married, but he didn't finish. And so he was going to finish it. He was painting a duplex, like the inside. So he was running behind, and I knew he had some other jobs lined up. So I said, hey, when we come back from our honeymoon, I'll come help you, because I know you need to get this job finished. It was taking a lot longer than he had anticipated. And so I go over there and help him paint, and then we're remodeling his house and come back and we're painting here. And I said one day, I didn't know when you put a ring on my left hand, you were putting a paintbrush in my right.
Yeah.
I painted for a month after we got married.
And she's good too. I told her I need to put her on the payroll.
Yeah. I hung up my paintbrush for a little while though.
Yeah. No, I made you hang up your paintbrush
for a
little while
did.
because you were getting behind on your stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was one of our funny stories. But we have quite a few. So that'll be for another day. But
Yep.
anyway,
Well, once again, thanks for joining us on the podcast. We've had a
yeah,
great time, and hopefully some of the stories that we've told y'all are pretty funny and things that you didn't know before about us and about how we met. And
mhm,
it definitely was intervention from God that we're together, and
yeah.
that you know
One more little caveat about that. Intervention from God and Regina. Because during that time that I was like, I don't know about all this, I wasn't looking for anybody. And I wasn't kissing him either.
You were, I mean, you were just so hard to read.
I was hard to
I
read.
told Regina this. I said, look, I said, I've never met anybody in my life that I could not read their emotions. And I said, Michelle is so stoic. I mean, like you can't read her. Like I could not tell if I was, taking 2 steps forward or 10 steps backwards. I really couldn't tell one way or the other. And so I would, I was friends with Regina, who's one of her best friends, and I'm messaging her going, hey, I don't know if this is really working out. I can't tell, and Regina luckily was like, hang in there, it'll be okay, it'll get
Yeah.
better, don't give up. And so
In the meantime, Regina and we would go walking a few times a week. And she would, like, once a week, she said, well, how are things with you and Doug? So what are you thinking? I didn't know she was scoping me out so she could go tell him to hang on, but I am thankful she did.
if she hadn't, I would be because I literally I was on the verge of saying, yeah, I'm
And then,
waiting, I'm
then
wasting
he
my time.
has then he has Susan, my Aunt Susan. She told me one day, she said, like, what are you waiting on, Michelle? She said, I am too old to pray somebody else into your life. Don't you let that boy get away. But he had Susan on his side.
And I have to tell her all the time, if you don't quit picking on me, I'm calling your Aunt Susan.
He will tell me that.
Yeah. When she
Mhm.
puts her cold hands up under my shirt on my sides and I almost jump out of my skin,
Yeah.
I
He
say,
threatens.
I'm like, I will call your Aunt Susan right now and she will give you the business.
Uh-huh. Yep. Well, thank y'all for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed some of our stories. We do have quite a bit, but I will say God is good. He knew exactly who we both needed. And we think sometimes that, you know, what took so long, like, I know Doug and I had that conversation. I don't know which one of us God was working on more, me or him. He says him. But, I think, God has a plan, and sometimes it takes time for those plans to come together. Sometimes we are the reason it takes so long. Like, God has to prepare us, but we have to be open to Him preparing us and Him preparing our heart for what He has. A lot of times He gives us a promise, and it's up to us to get ourselves ready to receive it, because you have to be where you can be trusted with that promise. And so sometimes it takes us a while to get to that place where we can be trusted with that promise. And so, maybe God's promised you something. Maybe you're waiting on your spouse. Maybe you're waiting on a job opportunity. Maybe you're waiting on something else, some other promise to be fulfilled. I'm reading a book now or I read a book a little bit ago called The Expansion Mandate. And that's one of the battles to the promise, is the battle for the promise. And one of the things she said in there was, the amount of time you spend in the battle for the promise is dependent upon you. The battle for the promise is you believing that God actually has a promise specifically for you. Like, sometimes we can believe that He has one for Michelle and Doug. Sometimes we can believe He has one for our best friends or our brothers and sisters, but we have a hard time believing that God has a promise specifically for us. And so the battle for the promise is the amount of time it takes for you to believe that. and for you to trust that. And the amount of time you spend in that Bible battle is completely up to you. It's dependent upon how much time it takes for you to believe that promise is for you. And so I think sometimes we can delay God's promises because we are not fully embracing the fact that God wants to bless us in such a way. And so, maybe you find yourself there. Maybe, you just need to take time to really accept the fact and understand that God has a special promise for you too. So hope that encourages you. Thank y'all for joining. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Thank you for just sharing a little of our story together. And I pray that you got something out of that, whether it was a gold nugget or whether it was just a little laughter for the soul and just leaving here a little more joyful. Next week, I don't know exactly who is going to be on my podcast. I have not lined that up yet. It may just be me sharing a word with you, but be waiting and be looking over the next few weeks. I will be getting together some interviews. I have some really beautiful people to interview. So I'll be sharing that with you as I have things lined up. But I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have enjoyed our time together today. And I look forward to the next time that we sit down together and share stories.